It happened at Nashville International Airport, the place where families reunite. Lovers part and dreams take off. Except that morning mine didn't. I stood by the check-in counter, clutching my purse like it held my last heartbeat. My son Mark and his wife Tanya stood ahead of me, their laughter blending into the hum of travelers, rolling their suitcases toward gates and vacations. I thought we were one of them, a family traveling together. Trying to heal after my husband's funeral, I thought wrong. "Mom," Tanya said, voice smooth and sharp all at once. "We only bought you a one-way ticket. The return trip, you'll figure it out." She didn't even look back as she said it, her designer luggage gliding effortlessly toward first class. Mark didn't defend me. He didn't even blink. For a moment, the air left my lungs. Around me, life kept moving. Boarding calls, children crying, metal detectors beeping, but inside, everything had gone still. I stared at the boarding pass in my hand, realizing it was useless. My return trip didn't exist. Neither, it seemed, did my place in their lives. "You've got a phone," Tanya added. Her words tossed over her shoulder like crumbs. "Call someone or sell it. That'll cover a Greyhound, right?" And then, just like that, they disappeared behind the security line. I watched their silhouettes fade into the tunnel of gates and polished floors, and I felt something inside me collapse quietly. They didn't just leave me behind. They erased me. I stood in the middle of the terminal, clutching a thin sweater and a printed itinerary that meant nothing. No suitcase, no boarding pass, no plan. Just the echo of Tanya's heels clicking further and further away. People glanced at me, then looked away, sensing something broken they didn't want to touch. An older woman smiled at me politely until her eyes landed on the empty space beside me where luggage should have been. Pity replaced her smile. I turned away before she could speak. Hours ago, I had woken up thinking I still had a family, that the trip was a healing getaway, a chance to breathe after burying my husband of 42 years. I had even sold my last set of pearls, Jake's final anniversary gift, to help pitch in for flights. It was supposed to be a group effort, they'd said. But it wasn't. It was a setup. I realized then that the itinerary they'd handed me was nothing more than a prop, a piece of paper, to keep me quiet until the truth unfolded at the airport gate. I was never meant to board that plane. I was never meant to come back with them. The noise of the terminal swelled like a wave around me. But I stood still, frozen, invisible. I wanted to cry, but the tears refused. There's a certain kind of shock that turns your body into stone and your soul into glass. That's what betrayal feels like when it comes from your own child. I tightened my grip on my purse and took one slow breath after another. Because if I let go, even for a second, I knew I'd fall apart completely. Grief doesn't knock when it arrives. It storms in, uninvited, and rearranges your world before you even realize the door was open. When Jake died, it wasn't sudden, but it was absolute. One moment he was humming off-key in the kitchen, teasing me about hiding the cinnamon again, and the next he was gone. A stroke, the doctor said. Quick, final. 42 years of marriage reduced to a silence that filled every corner of our home. His slippers by the bed, his toothbrush beside mine, the faint smell of his aftershave lingering. In the hallway long after the ambulance had left, they buried him on a rainy Monday. The kind of rain that doesn't pour, it seeps. It sinks into your bones before you even feel wet. People brought casseroles, flowers, polite words I couldn't remember. I didn't cry during the service. I couldn't. My tears had turned into something heavier, something that just sat there, pressing on my chest, day and night. After the funeral, the world moved on. But I didn't. The house grew quieter, the air heavier. The days started blending together. Coffee, silence, sunset, repeat. Then one afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was Mark, my son, my only child. He hugged me, briefly, the way you hug a stranger you used to know. "Mom," he said gently, "you've been cooped up too long. Tanya and I think it's time for you to get away for a bit." "Get away?" I repeated, unsure if I heard right. "Just a little trip," he said. "We're taking the kids to Florida for spring break. You should come. Dad would have wanted you to—" I looked up, searching his face for warmth, for sincerity, and found enough to believe him. I wanted to believe him. Tanya stood behind him, arms folded, offering a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It'll do you good, Blake," she added. "Fresh air, sunshine, you'll feel better." That night, I opened my jewelry box, the one Jake had gifted me when we were newlyweds. Inside, wrapped in a bit of blue cloth, was my gold anniversary band, the one he had saved for months to buy. 10 more years, he had whispered when he slipped it on. 10 more after that. I held it in my palm for a long time before I finally did what I thought was an act of love or trust. I sold it. The pawnshop owner looked at me with kind eyes. "You sure, ma'am?" he asked. I nodded, even as my throat tightened. "Yes, it's time." I used that money to help pay for the flights. Tanya had mentioned everyone pitching in, so I did what family does. I gave what I could. That night, for the first time in months, I felt something like hope. Maybe this trip was what Jake would have wanted, me surrounded by family. Laughing again, living again. I packed my bag carefully. A framed photo of Jake, my softest sweater, the one he used to say made me look classy as hell. A paperback I'd been meaning to finish, and a folded tissue tucked right at the top, just in case. I didn't know then that I'd never see that bag again, or that the woman folding those clothes would not be the same. Woman left standing alone at gate B22, with nothing but a broken heart and a one-way ticket to nowhere. The morning of the flight began with sunlight, warm, forgiving, the kind that almost makes you believe things might turn out right. Tanya greeted me at the curbside with a polished smile, her sunglasses perched high, her perfume filling the air. "Relax, Blake," she said. "We've got everything handled." Mark loaded the luggage into the trunk, and I handed over my small carry-on, the one with Jake's photo tucked inside. "We'll check it with ours," Tanya added. "It'll be easier." Easier. That word would echo in my head for hours. Inside the airport, everything felt too fast, too loud. The floor gleamed beneath the morning rush, and families moved around me like I was invisible. I stayed close to Mark and Tanya, holding on to the little folder of travel documents they'd given me. Printed pages. Fake security. When it was time to check in, Tanya breezed through the priority lane with her mother and the kids. Mark followed. I waited, like I always had, quietly, trusting. Then the agent looked up from her screen, confusion flickering across her face. "I'm sorry, ma'am." "There's no return flight under your name," I blinked. "There must be a mistake. I'm with my son, the Monroe family." She checked again, frowning deeper. "Yes, I see their reservation. 6 passengers round trip, but you're not listed on the return." Her voice was gentle, practiced, the kind people use when they don't want to see you break. I turned around, scanning the terminal until I saw them, Mark and Tanya laughing by the coffee stand. Completely at ease, I hurried over, clutching my useless itinerary. "Mark," I said softly, "they said I don't have a return ticket. Can you check yours?" He looked up, startled, like a child caught doing something wrong. Then came that awkward smile. "Oh, right. We figured you might want to stay longer. Relax a bit." Tanya sipped her latte. "We only got you a one-way. Blake, flights are expensive and you've got time. You'll figure it out." My heart stuttered. "I thought it was round trip." "You're retired," she said, shrugging. "No schedule, no rush. Call someone. There's Wi-Fi." Mark didn't look at me. He didn't even flinch when Tanya added, "Sell your phone if you need bus money." It was rehearsed. Every word. I could feel it. I stared at the 2 people I loved most, my son and his wife, and realized they had planned this. Every smile, every soft tone, every promise about family time had been part of the lie. I tried to ask about my suitcase, but Tanya just waved her manicured hand. "We'll get it to you later. Don't make a scene." "Make a scene?" I repeated, my voice trembling. "You left me without a flight, without my things." "Mom," Mark cut in quietly. "You're being emotional again." That word, again, sliced through me. Emotional, needy, overreacting. The words people use when they want to erase your pain without facing what they did to cause it. Tanya checked her watch. "We have to board. Group A." And just like that, they walked away. No hug, no goodbye, no guilt. I stood there, watching them glide towards security, her heels clicking confidently, his hand resting lightly on her backs, and I felt the last piece of my heart quietly fold in on itself. People around me kept moving, the world spinning as if nothing had happened. But for me, everything had stopped. I sat down on a nearby bench, my purse tight against my chest. I didn't cry, not yet. I simply opened my phone, typed a note. This will be the last time I trust them. Then I scrolled through my contacts until I found one name I hadn't seen in years. J.R. Lawyer, Jake's old friend. The one who had once said, "If you ever need anything, Blake, call me." And so I did. When he answered, I didn't say hello. I said, I need to update my will. By the time my son's plane took off, I was already sitting in the back of a yellow cab, watching the runway disappear through the window. No luggage, no plan. Just one name in my phone and a storm building in my chest. Jake's friend, JR, hadn't changed his number. When he picked up, his voice carried the same warmth I remembered. Blake, it's been years. I need your help, I said, my voice shaking. Not for money, for clarity. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from him in his quiet downtown office. The smell of leather, paper, and old coffee wrapped around me like a memory. He didn't ask why my hands trembled or why my eyes were swollen. He just opened a yellow folder and said, "Tell me everything." So I did. From the frozen credit card to the fake vacation, from Tanya's cruel smirk to the way Mark avoided my gaze. I didn't spare a single detail. Every word felt like reopening an old wound, but with each confession, the bleeding stopped a little. JR listened in silence, his pen moving occasionally. When I finished, he leaned back, thoughtful. "Blake, you've been financing their life, haven't you?" I nodded. Since Jake died, I wanted Mark to have everything his brother never could. "And how much control do they have over your assets?" "All of it," I admitted. "Every card, every fund." I trusted him. He sighed, tapping his pen. "Then we fix that today." For the first time in months, I felt the faintest flicker of something I hadn't felt since Jake's funeral. Power. We spent the next 3 hours rewriting the story my son thought he had already finished. We closed joint accounts, transferred holdings, froze family cards, and then came the final step, my will. I stared at the blank page for a long time. My pen hovered, my heart pounding. When I finally began to write, it wasn't anger that guided me. It was clarity. To my son Mark, I leave my love and nothing else. To Tanya, my forgiveness, though she will never understand it. To the woman who raised their children, the housekeeper they treated like a shadow. I leave the home she cleaned with her own hands. JR looked up. Surprised. "You're certain about this?" "I'm done rewarding cruelty," I whispered. "They taught me what family shouldn't be. Now I'll teach them what consequence feels like." He smiled sadly. "You always had more strength than you realized." By the time I left his office, dusk had fallen. The city lights blurred through. The taxi window like fireflies, silent. Witnesses to my quiet rebellion. At a small diner on the edge of town, I sat by the window, ordered black coffee, and finally let myself breathe. The waitress asked gently, "Long day?" I smiled. "No," I said. "Long life. But it's finally turning." I didn't check my phone that night, though I knew Mark would eventually notice the frozen accounts, the missing balances, the silence where his mother's help used to be. And when he did, I wanted him to understand, not the pain I felt, but the message behind it. "You taught me my place, Mark. Now I've learned how to stand in it, alone." The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, I ignored it, sipping my coffee in peace, watching the sunlight dance across the diner window. But when I finally looked down, the screen was flooded with missed calls. Mark, Tanya, unknown numbers. They had landed, and they had discovered everything. The first voicemail began with panic. "Mom, the cards aren't working." "Did you cancel something?" "We can't rent a car. We can't check in." Then Tanya's voice cut in, sharper. "Blake, this isn't funny. Fix it. Now." By the third message, Mark's tone had shifted from confusion to anger. "What the hell did you do, Mom? You've stranded us here." I listened quietly, stirring my coffee. I didn't feel proud or vengeful. I just felt done. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. I left the diner, bought a train ticket to the coast, and found a small bed and breakfast near the ocean. The owner, a kind woman named Clara, handed me a brass key and said, "You look like someone who needs rest, not company." She was right. For the next few days, I walked the shoreline, letting the waves erase the footprints behind me. Every breath tasted cleaner. Every step felt lighter. Sometimes grief needs silence, and sometimes justice does too. When I finally turned my phone back on, there was one new message. Just one. Mark's voice was quieter this time, strained, broken. "Mom, we came home." "The locks don't work. The lawyer said the house isn't in our name anymore." "You really did it, didn't you?" A pause. "I don't understand why." I sat on the porch, listening to the ocean, and whispered to no one in particular. "Because you never tried to." A few weeks later, A letter arrived from JR. Inside was a final document, proof of transfer, a new deed, and a handwritten note. It's all yours now, Blake. You've earned your peace. I closed the envelope and smiled for the first time in years. Not the polite kind, not the one I used to wear like armor, but a real one. I didn't need revenge. I just needed release. Sometimes love means letting go, and sometimes letting go means reminding those who betrayed you that even the quietest heart can roar when pushed too far. That evening, I stood by the water's edge, the wind tangling my hair, and whispered Jake's name to the sea. I did what you'd want, sweetheart. I stopped being their safety net. I finally became mine. As the tide rolled in, I felt the weight of everything, the lies, the loneliness, the longing slowly dissolve into the waves. Maybe Mark would understand one day. Maybe he wouldn't. But I didn't need his understanding anymore. I had found something far more powerful than his approval. Freedom.